I'm going to be talking about utilizing sports to create viral videos. I've been in the sports world for 25 years. Why are viral videos important? I think we've seen a lot of speakers this morning who have talked about the power of viral videos to really grow the bottom line and get brand love. And that's the most important thing, is like trying to get people to love your brand, become advocates of your brand, in my opinion. So you're probably wondering, who am I? Well, I was born here in New York. When I was 7, I moved across country. My family moved us out to Los Angeles. My father was a writer for TV and movies, and I attended USC. I'm not sure if there's any other Trojans here, but I'm a proud Trojan. I went to Fox Sports and helped launch Fox Sports. I'm not sure if people are familiar with this story, but Fox was trying to launch the 4th network, Fox Broadcasting. They picked up the NFL, and that created one of the 4th broadcast networks. It really made them successful, and sports was a big part of that. I was part of that team. We also launched a bunch of cable networks behind that. We created Fox Sports Net, which was a combination of all the regional sports networks around the country, including Madison Square Garden Network here, and at the time there was Sports Channel in New York, and it became Fox Sports New York, and now there's a bunch of regional sports networks around the country. We also launched a bunch of other networks while I was there. FX, which people are probably familiar with here, had, at the time we launched, a lot of sports on it. It no longer does it carry that sports, but at the time it was a great way to get the network going, and we aired a lot of different sports on there. I also launched Fox College Sports, which was 3 actually networks focusing on college sports. We launched Fox Soccer Channel, which was at first Fox Sports World. It was all international sports. We had a network called Speed Channel, which at first was called Speed Vision. We relaunched as Speed Channel, but it was all about racing. And we had the NASCAR, and I launched a network called Fuel, which was an action sports network, 24-hour action sports network. And maybe we aired Brian, doing some of his tricks on that network on Fuel. But we also had FoxSports.com, and that was a very successful launch. The person at the start who was running that was James Murdoch, who's another chairman. But at Fox and at FoxSports.com, I worked with some of the leading people in the media industry now and social media. I was on the phone last week with Adam Bain, who's the CEO of Twitter. He was at FoxSports.com with us. Ross Levinson was one of the heads of FoxSports.com. He was the former CEO of Yahoo and now is looking to purchase Yahoo with a group. And of course, Matt Jacobson, who was the number 8 employee at Facebook, who was the head of sales for FoxSports.com way back when. So I have some pretty good experience with some pretty good people, and we all keep in touch. I launched an agency called the K-Ray Group after that, leaving Fox, and we worked on a bunch of really diverse clients. K-Swiss, we ran all their advertising and helped them. We also worked with Sonos, which was, if anybody's familiar, one of the top speaker companies in the world, and Discovery Networks, and helped them do their sports marketing. And Learfield Sports, we helped them with their national sales. They had 100 colleges they represent around the country. From the K-Ray Group, I got a call to become the Senior Vice President of Global Sales for the UFC. So I was, last year and a half, I was working for the UFC and traveling around the world, revamping our sales force. UFC, if anybody's familiar, is the top mixed martial arts promoter in the world. It's actually really a producer of content. They have an amazing array of growth over the last 15 years. They've grown faster than any other sports league in the world. And if there's recent reports that may be sold for, $4 to $6 billion is what the asking price, I think, right now. And they're talking about it being bought for that. Really amazing experience. It was fun to travel around. I hired 10 agencies around the world to represent us. I revamped our sales force here in the US and got some really great international experience. And from that, I relaunched, actually 5-6 weeks ago, the K-Ray Group. And with that, we are working with the English Premier League and 12 other clubs. We also have clubs in the German Bundesliga, Italian Series A, French League One. We're representing exclusively here in North America the Chinese Basketball Association, and then a new property called Velon, which is a combination of 11 of the 18 pro cycling teams have come together to really help increase pro cycling's appeal for partnerships. One of the really interesting programs they're just launching is called OBS, on bike streaming, and they're going to have streaming from every bike cyclist from those 11 teams and all the data coming behind it. So we're talking to people like Intel and SAP and Google and Amazon and Twitter about becoming partners with Velon. And then over here, Posadas, we're working on a program with Posadas, who is the largest hotel operator in Mexico, and they're trying to get people to understand who their hotels are and their resorts are here in the U.S. We're helping them with a U.S.-based program. From that, I over the years, while running K-Ray Group, we've won many awards, Viral Video Awards, Webby Awards, working with them and doing some stuff. So I have some experience in this space. I'm not an expert marketer by any means. I never say I'm expert in anything. I try to just learn as much as I can while I'm going. But I think the problem now is that brands have is trying to get people, consumers, to really love their brands and connect with them. And we'd all love to be Apple and have the Apple product and have people tattooing an Apple logo on their chest. But what Apple's done is people talk about it. They take that product, and the new Apple 7's coming out, and everybody wants to see the new design, and you're going to share that because you're an advocate. You, as a consumer, have become a salesperson for Apple, and you're selling that. And how do you convert people over and make them salespeople for you? And I think the way you do that is you tap into sports and something that's a passion point for people. The former chairman of Fox Sports, David Hill, always would say, sports is the greatest drama on earth. Just to raise, I'd love everybody to raise their hand if you are a sports fan and if you have a favorite team. Most people watch sports and they're very active in sports and they're very passionate about it. Either a player, a team, a league. I can see if I can get this to work here, but if people are familiar with the Stephen Curry has come on the scene and become electric in the NBA. People are huge fans of him. It's just another dramatic story that's going on. They actually have, for the first time, I never thought this happened, but when Michael Jordan and the Bulls scored, had 72 wins, they eclipsed that this year and had 73 wins. Very dramatic fashion. I'm not sure if there's any Golden State Warrior fans here, but I know my son, who we live in Las Vegas, he's obsessed with Stephen Curry, and that's all he talks about all the time and watches every video about him and anything he does. Muscle Milk's doing some pretty interesting stuff with him right now. Coming from the UFC, if you're a big fan of the UFC and Ronda Rousey, we've done and seen her this last year, but she had a pretty dramatic loss, and this is the knockout. So, at the UFC, we have drama going on. There's a lot of drama with a lot of our fighters and people who were in there, and fans are very passionate about that and talk about it on social media. If you're a soccer fan and you watch the World Cup, I think it's one of the most unifying sports in the world, especially when it happens. But this is a video of the U.S. Playing Portugal. Now, around the country during the U.S. was playing during the World Cup, they had these massive events in massive public places where people go out and be a part of the viewing experience. But just to show again the passion of sports. What's amazing is where else do you get this kind of emotion? You don't see it anywhere else. I mean, people aren't going nuts and carrying each other around. It's very hard to find that. How do you tap into that passion? Is the most important thing. Like, so brands are trying to break through the clutter, utilize that passion and tap into it. You're watching people as Clint Dempsey scoring the final goal. And you can feel it right now, even in here, like the power of the crowd going crazy. It just energizes you. And you want to be a part of that. So, the solution is creating viral videos that connect into, sports and the passion that people have around it. And it's not easy to do, but it can be very effective if you do it right. And I think, creating those viral videos that connect people and drive that passion point home and make them want to be a part of your brand because you're tapping into that passion point they have. It may not be sports, but I think sports is a very easy place to go because everybody has a passion point with sports. And the key is you're trying to make people love your brand. As I was talking about with Apple, why do people want to talk about it? You want people to be advocates of your brand. You want people to become salespeople. With Sonos is a perfect example of this. We did some really cool things with Sonos. And trying to make people love the brand. People want to talk about it and tell why it's such a great product and why they have it in their house and how amazing this speaker system is, and it's changed their life because they can listen to music in a really unique way. So, again, attach your brand to the passion points they have. Creating compelling content. When we talk at K-Ray Group and when I've, over the years, talked about creating compelling content, it has to be used as brand fuel to really take your brand to another level and help increase that passion point and connections to the brand. I was going to go over a couple examples of successful campaigns I've seen over the years. One of the groups is Old Spice, and as you guys, I don't know how many people are familiar, deodorant is deodorant. If you talk to anybody at any of the major deodorant companies, it's all the same product. It's really, there's no differentiation. So how do you differentiate yourself in a space like that? And Old Spice has done an amazing job. They created this Smell Like a Man campaign where they created viral videos and TV spots that would help push this idea and this concept. It propelled them to become the #1 selling deodorant in the world. And they did an amazing thing when they first started where they took all the tweets and social media questions that people on Facebook had posted, and they actually had for 3 days straight the spokesperson, Mustafa, an ex-NFL player, respond to those with quick video clips. And it was an amazing job they did with that. Really kind of, people were texting in or tweeting and putting on Facebook questions. They'd respond right away within minutes with a video of him responding to those people and going back and forth. One Christmas, they did an amazing job to create a viral video. They gave away Christmas gifts to, they say, 6 billion people. But it was a marketing campaign. And what they did is I'll show the video, but they created a website, an app where you could just press this button, or had a man's hand press a button, and things would explode. So the Manta Claus campaign, I think, was just a brilliant way of tapping into a sports athlete, and then also just a viral way of thanking your fans and really connecting with it. As I mentioned before, I worked on K-Swiss. There was one of our clients. We did all their advertising before I went to the UFC. They were a brand back in the mid-2000s that had lost its direction. People, if you asked the biggest consumers of shoes, sports shoes, are young males. They'll buy multiple pairs and have multiple pairs of shoes. So how do you get that young male, 12 to 24-year-old, 12 to 30-year-old, to know about the K-Swiss brand? They're competing against Nike and Adidas, Reebok, and and Under Armour and break out of the clutter. So we did a lot of research, and we were trying to figure out how do we kind of create something that's unique. And we created a campaign where around a player named Kenny Powers, who was actually a fictitious player made up for an HBO series called Eastbound and Down. And he was a baseball player, if anybody knows the story here, who had won the World Series and then got banned from baseball because of drug use and had to go back to his high school and become the high school baseball coach, high school PE teacher. It was a very hilarious series that ran on HBO that was very successfully popular with our young male demographic. It's extremely hard to do. I mean, Nike and Under Armour and Adidas do an amazing job, and they're spending 100 times more than K-Swiss is. So this catapulted K-Swiss's sales up, and they became viral video of the year. We had millions and millions and millions of views of these videos, and we did shorter clips of all these and aired them. We did things at the ESPYs and had a lot of fun with a lot of groups pushing this. I think part of the thing is our client wasn't scared of pushing the envelope and going above and beyond, because they knew they had to do something different or they wouldn't stand out. And we were very successful with this and very happy with the results. K-Swiss subsequently sold the company to a Korean, the largest retailer in Korea, Elan World, and it's continuing on today. But it was a fun time for us. During my UFC time, one of our biggest partner actually was Bud Light, the InBev group. But they've done an amazing job if you've watched them, especially utilizing sports and living, this whole living campaign and trying to create experiences that can go viral, and they're surprising their customers with things. So we at UFC created a really interesting part of this, and it was one of their most successful viral video campaigns they've ever done, and it was called Bud Light Living Become a Champion, and we made a fan a champion for a week. It's interesting. Budweiser, they're competing against Miller, Coors, and now microbrews and Corona, and they haven't gone the route that the other groups have, where they're out there and they're saying, hey, we have less filling, we're this. We're about experiences. We're about living. We're about having fun. And if you think Bud Light, you think fun. And that it really is a great testament. They've done a lot of these above and beyond UFC that have been really successful, but we had a lot of fun putting this together at UFC, and it really made. So coming back around, I show you some examples there. How do we keep driving that brand love and people to really be advocates for your brand? And I think you need to surprise and delight them. You have to blow them away, as they did with, at Old Spice, and creating a button where you actually can blow things up and blow people away. You have to be authentic to your brand and tie into it. I know people have talked about that before, the previous speakers. You have to stand up for more than just your bottom line. It has to be bigger than just thinking about your profits. And again, I come back to treating content as brand fuel. It can be an amazing vehicle to really propel a brand and make it loved by your consumers. And then you want to create experiences and adventures that take your consumer or potential consumer on rides, so they can become part of the experience. And of course, making it personal is really important. When you're creating that viral video, again, how do you make it viral? You need to blow people away. That has to be really compelling content. Utilizing influencers is very important. We did that with K-Swiss, where we paid celebrities, and then other celebrities start jumping on the bandwagon and start tweeting about it, and posting on their Facebook page. That really enhances it. But you can buy push, and you can buy ways of getting your message out there through social media. Again, strategically placing it in those areas that are important and where your consumers go, of course, is very important. You need to really evoke high arousal and emotions, and make it simple and quick consumable by the audience. It can't be over 5 minutes. I think that's the max you can do. But you can have a lot of fun with that, and you can shorten those down into 30-second clips that really become digestible by consumers on their phones, tablets, or the computers. And then be relevant and to the brand, of course, newsworthy. That with current events, we can tie into that. That really makes it a lot more powerful. But the final thing I always like to come back to is blowing people away, and especially with the content. It's, make an impression and make them blown away. Again, we're not really doing question and answer. I think everybody's probably hungry right now, wants to get to lunch. But thank you so much for your time. But you can talk to me after, and if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them. But thanks so much. Thanks again, Aaron. Bye.